Picture a row of engineers staring at a screen. On it, 2 laps. Same car. Same track. Same fuel. One driver is fast. The other is Ayrton Senna. And the gap between them makes no sense. They check the data again. The tires are identical. The engine settings match. By every number they trust, the laps should be the same. They are not even close. For years, the smartest people in racing had one question. How is he doing that? Not why he was brave. Not how hard he tried. How, mechanically, was he finding time that should not exist? This is not the story you already know. Forget the helmet and the legend for a moment. This is the story the telemetry tells. And it is stranger than the myth. Telemetry is the truth machine of Formula One. Every car carries sensors. They record what the driver does hundreds of times a second. Throttle position, brake pressure, steering angle, speed. Cannot be fooled, and it cannot lie. And when Honda's engineers first read Senna's traces, they thought a sensor was broken. His throttle did not move like a normal driver's. Most drivers squeeze the pedal in one smooth push. The trace climbs in a clean curve. Senna's trace looked like a heartbeat. On, off, many times in a single corner. He was pulsing the engine through the turn, feeding it just enough to keep the rear tires on the edge of grip. Too much and the car spins. Too little and you lose time. He lived in the tiny band in between. And he stayed there on purpose thousands of times a race. No one had taught him that. No one had even seen it before. Engineers gave it names later. At the time, it just looked like noise. But it came from somewhere older than Formula One. It came from a go-kart in Brazil. Kart has no electronics, no downforce, no gears to hide behind. Just a boy, a small engine, and grip he had to feel through the seat. Senna spent his childhood reading that grip, learning the exact instant rubber lets go. Most drivers feel that edge as a wall. He felt it as a line he could trace. By the time he reached a Formula One car, his hands and feet were already calibrated to it. He was not driving the car. He was listening to it and answering. And the data simply wrote down what he heard. His engineers had numbers for everything. Except the one thing that made him fast. To see it clearly, you have to start with a single lap. Monaco, 1988, qualifying. Senna is driving the McLaren MP4/4. It is one of the greatest cars ever built. His teammate is Alain Prost. Prost is the reigning world champion. Same car, same engine, same tires. It is the perfect controlled experiment. 2 of the best drivers alive with no excuses between them. Prost puts in a brilliant lap, a champion's lap. Then Senna goes out. And he beats Prost by 1.5 seconds. In Monaco, a single tenth is an eternity. 1.5 seconds is from another planet. Years later, Senna tried to describe that lap. He said the walls of the circuit became a tunnel. He was driving far beyond his conscious mind on pure instinct. He said it frightened him, and he slowed down and came in. Sounds like poetry. The data says it was real. His inputs in that session are almost inhuman. Corner after corner, right at the limit, with no margin left. And here is the part most people miss. It was not one brave lap. It was every lap. Senna's true gift was not a single magic moment. It was repeatability. Anyone can be fast once by accident. He could find the edge, and then live there lap after lap without falling off. Most drivers touch the limit and flinch. Senna touched it and stayed. We had seen a hint of this 4 years earlier. Monaco, 1984, his rookie season. A slow car, heavy rain, and a young Brazilian climbing through the field. He was catching the leader by seconds a lap when officials stopped the race. Even then, the signal was clear. Monaco was the proof on paper. But there was one condition where the gap simply exploded. One thing that turned a great driver into something the sport had never been able to measure. Rain. When the rain came, the numbers got even stranger. To understand why, you have to understand what rain does. Takes grip away, unevenly, differently in every corner. The road becomes a puzzle that changes every second. And grip was the one thing Senna could read better than anyone alive. So when everyone else lost the road, he could still feel exactly where it was. Now let us go to the most famous wet lap ever driven. Donington Park, England, 1993. The European Grand Prix. It is raining, then drying, then raining again. The worst possible conditions, changing minute by minute. Senna qualifies fourth in a car that is not the fastest. The Williams cars ahead of him are simply quicker machines. Then the lights go out. Into the first corner, he is squeezed and drops to fifth. For most drivers, that is the race. Settle in, survive. And then Senna begins the opening lap. He passes Schumacher around the outside. Then Wendlinger into the next corner. Then Damon Hill. And then Prost for the lead. For cars, one lap, in the rain. From fifth to first before the lap was done. The commentators simply ran out of words. Here is what the data showed afterward. On the wet parts of the track, Senna was smooth and gentle. On the drying parts, he was violent and aggressive. He was reading the grip meter by meter and changing his entire style inside a single corner. While other drivers picked one approach and hoped, Senna rewrote his constantly in real time. That is what the rain revealed. Not bravery, information. He was processing the track faster than anyone else could. The wetter it got, the bigger his advantage became. Because the harder the puzzle, the more his gift was worth. Donington was not luck. It was the clearest picture we ever got of how his mind actually worked. But a gift like that does not stay quiet for long. Sooner or later, it collides with other genius. And in Senna's case, it collided with one man. Alain Prost was called the Professor. And the nickname was earned. Prost won races with mathematics. He saved his tires. He managed his fuel. He drove the smallest possible fast lap that still won. On the data, Prost is a model of efficiency. Nothing wasted. Senna was his complete opposite. Senna attacked everything all of the time. Two entire philosophies of speed, parked in the same garage. For 2 seasons at McLaren, they tore each other apart. And the telemetry told the deeper story. Prost's laps were consistent, clean, and repeatable. Senna's were spikier, riskier, and often faster over one lap. The team could see both truths at the same time. One man optimized, the other maximized. Their rivalry dragged both of them to a level no one reached again. It also got political, and bitter, and personal. Suzuka 1989. They collide. Title is decided. Suzuka 1990. They collide again. Another title decided. Championships settled not by speed, but by contact at high speed. It was at times genuinely ugly. But strip all the politics away, and you are left with one simple fact. To measure Senna, the sport needed Prost. And to measure Prost, it needed Senna. Each man was the other's true scale. Without that rivalry, we might never have learned how high the ceiling really was. Years later, the bitterness faded into something like respect. Prost retired at the end of 1993. Senna was about to change teams. And the technology was about to change too, which created a brand new problem for him. Problem his gift could not solve. By the early 90s, the cars were getting smart. Active suspension, traction control, onboard computers. The machine was beginning to do the driver's job for him. Traction control, in particular, was the problem. Remember Senna's heartbeat throttle? His genius on the edge of grip? Traction control did that automatically for everyone.
The computer now managed the wheel spin he used to manage by feel.
It handed average drivers a piece of his magic for free. Williams built the best of these computerized cars. On paper, it was almost impossible to beat. And here is the cruel irony. The more the electronics drove, the less Senna's special advantage could shine. His edge was feel. The electronics were sanding the feel away.
For the first time in his life, raw talent was not enough.
You also needed the right machine under you. So for 1994, Senna joined Williams. He finally had the car everyone feared. But over that winter, the rules changed. The electronic aids were banned, almost overnight. And that perfect, computer-smooth car suddenly became nervous, twitchy, and difficult. Senna, the greatest reader of grip alive, was now wrestling a machine that fought him back. The telemetry from early '94 shows it plainly. He is fighting the car, not flowing with it. And still,
he put it on pole position. 3 races, 3 poles.
In a car that did not suit him, against a younger Schumacher,
he was still the fastest man alive over a single lap.
That is the size of the margin he was carrying. Take away his greatest weapon. Hand him a car that did not want to cooperate.
And he was still, somehow, first.
Most of us never get to see what that level of standard looks like. With Senna, the numbers let us see it. And then, the story turns. In 1994, at Imola, the sport lost him. He was leading the race. He was only 34 years old. An entire nation simply stopped. Brazil declared 3 days of mourning. They gave him a farewell fit for a head of state. Millions lined the streets of São Paulo. But this is where his real legacy begins. In the days after, Formula One faced a hard truth. It had grown too fast and too dangerous. Led by the Dr. Sid Watkins, his close friend, the sport rebuilt its safety from the ground up. Stronger cockpits, higher walls, better barriers, crash tests, safer circuits, and new rules. For many years after that weekend, no driver was lost. Drivers walk away from enormous impacts today because of changes that trace straight back to him. His name did not just live on, it protected people. And there was another legacy away from the track. Senna had quietly given a fortune to children in Brazil. After him, his family turned that into a foundation. It has reached millions of young Brazilians since. The boy from São Paulo is still changing lives there. And his last legacy lives in the data. Engineers still pull up his old traces and study them. Young drivers are still measured against his benchmarks. When a modern star does something special in the wet, the comparison is always the same single name. Senna. He became the unit the sport measures greatness in. So we end where we began. A row of engineers, 2 laps, a gap that makes no sense. The numbers never fully explained him. But they made sure that we would never stop asking.
How was he doing that?